Good evening and welcome to the shop here in beautiful downtown Canterbury, New Hampshire. So good to have you here this week. This is one of those unusual times in the shop where we have a small but important and hugely hearted studio audience. Woo! See how I promoted that for you guys? Well, we are in the middle of a class this week. We're doing a course on making a shaker end table with a drawer. So we're all a little fried, but having a lot of fun and pushing ourselves into places we've never been before. But we're into dovetailing the drawer, and we're going to finish strong tomorrow. So someday, hey, you could be part of that. But if not, you can check out that very same course online. This is a shameless plug for epicwoodworking.com. Go check out courses over there.
Yes, we actually have one more spot in this very class in July, 7 through 11.
Oh, really?
So if anybody's interested, go to epicwoodworking.com/classes.
Exactly. Why not you? All right. So anyway, we'd love to have you here. But tonight is kind of fun, special. I've got something I'm working on, but I wasn't quite done with it enough to share it with you. So we opted to have some questions and answers. And thank you all for submitting those questions. They're always good and sometimes lighthearted and thought-provoking. And I can't answer them all, but I got them right here on this high-end iPad stand. Just to get, it's a bucket of, what is it? It's that urea formaldehyde glue powder, right? What is it? Vacbond 2000. All right, enough of that. Ed Snyder wants to know, I shouldn't say last name, should I?
Yeah, maybe just to...
Sorry,
right, it's not really Ed Snyder. Sorry, Ed.
Nobody knows his last name. No. Sorry, Ed. Well, Ed said, he probably doesn't want people to know this either. With lots of very sharp tools in my shop, I have had the occasion to cut myself frequently. Nothing serious, but can you comment on how to get blood stains out of wood? How much bloodshed is normal for the average project? Well, that's a great question, Ed. We've actually had some bloodshed in this class. And fortunately, it wasn't resting on the wood long enough that we couldn't demonstrate the card scraper and how effective it was at removing the drops of blood. Right? I see someone back there. But it is very common, I would say, to get a little nick or a cut during a project and bleed a little. And I really think that's going to be the modern way people sign their work. You know, someday people are going to do little DNA testing on your blood spots and say, yes, this really is an authentic Joe work of art. So I think, I don't know how much is normal, but I swear every involved long project, I do tend to bleed. I feel like I bleed maybe once on it. Just little nicks on your hands, you know. It's a contact sport. All right, Michael says, could you demonstrate the proper technique for jointing boards on a joiner, both face and edge joining? Where do you put the pressure on the board? Leading edge, trailing edge? Thank you. Well, I could do that, Mike, but I'm not going to walk over to that joiner right now. But I will do that. We must have done that in some class, but on a Shop Night Live, maybe?
Maybe.
But let me just demonstrate right here. If we imagine this is the joiner, let's say this board is the cutter head spinning right here, and this is our table right in front of us. I would bring the board in, and of course you're putting all the pressure on the in-feed table this way, and then I get it across onto the out-feed table. When you're in the middle, your hands are in the middle. There's really no big deal. And because the out-feed table is slightly higher, okay? The out-feed table is always set in the same plane as the cutter head. So when you come through, you're going to trim, and then what you've just trimmed should beautifully rest on the outfeed table as you go through. So you're gonna just put pressure on that outfeed table, and then you're midway, and then when I'm getting like 2/3 of the way, I'm all forward. So it's all the pressure on the outfeed table. But there's a lot of little techniques depending on the cup or the twist in the board on where to pressure. You're usually always pressuring on the point that's touching the table. I'm sorry I can't go into more right now, but we will, or try to reference that. All right, Eric says, what would be your process for cleaning, flattening, and possible top coat over Workbench with a tail vise and face vise that was new to you or existing? That's a good question, but we thought a lot about that when we built this Workbench. I've got junk on it right now, but when we built this bench, we actually did it with all this kind of lamination across. I forget how many. 4,
11, 12.
yeah, like 11. How did you remember that? 11, almost 2 inch. Oh, that can't be 2 inch. Inch 5, whatever. They are, I flipped them all up on edge. This is soft maple, all up on edge, so it's very close to quarter saw on a rift. When gluing them up, oriented them all so the grain was running in the same direction for future flattening purposes. So that is a good thing to think about. And when I do refresh this top, it's good now, and I want to get it back flat. I'm going to skim plane it. And my favorite plane now for that, as I experienced, was a new gift. Can you tell me the first name of gifter? Do you remember?
I'm sorry, I'm blank on it.
When we were doing the stables.
Oh,
I'm blanking. It's okay.
let me think.
Thank you so much. This is a Lee Nielsen.
Tom, his name is Tom.
Tom. That's why I couldn't remember.
That's
Thank
pretty
you,
sad
Tom.
for both of us.
Tom, I enjoy this thoroughly, and what I've loved about this is the weight it has. But this is a number 6, Lee Nielsen. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a number 5.5. It feels like a 6 because it's got this extra heft and weight. It's a bedrock reproduction by Lee Nielsen. And this thing, first I felt it, I thought, this is way too heavy, to use. But actually, this type of plane is so good for resurfacing a top like this. When I set it light, it was like I was able to push it around without bearing down on it. I was giving it such light pressure. Look at it, I'm actually hitting my bench right now. But I go diagonally, and then I go with the grain. Then I would lightly card scrape, and I would orbital the top. So I'm making sure it's dead flat, and then I'm going to scrape, clean it up, and then I'd re-oil it with whatever you want. I would probably put that tung oil varnish on there, a couple coats, thin coats, so it would protect it, but I would still feel the wood. I don't like a slick, polished surface. So this has a very thin finish on it. Now look what you made me do. I'm gonna have to refinish it. All right, but that's how I would do it. I would get a number 5 plane, skim plane it.
While you're on the Workbench, maybe you can answer Mike's question at the very end.
Yeah.
That he
Oh,
posed.
yeah, I was thinking that when I was reading it. Uh-oh, I lost my screen.
Similar, I mean, it's not similar, but it's related to the Workbench.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Okay. Barton asked you might have to help me on this.
Well, are you going to do Mike's question since it's related to the Workbench? I thought you said you were.
Oh, yeah, I am at the end.
Oh, okay.
It's at the end.
Seems like it would flow right now, so.
How do we have a misunderstanding? We're
I
usually
know.
so
We are
on track.
so
We never have misunderstandings.
Symbiotic, missed that one.
That's very surprising. All right, so,
We could ask the gallery what they thought.
well, look, Barton asked, with so many hours live on YouTube in the shop, there must have been unfortunate events and hopefully no accidents. Would you like to share some stories? We haven't had that many unfortunate. I mean, there was recently, I can think of when I was testing out the shaker rocker and I put a temporary seat on there and I fell through the seat.
Yeah, that
Right.
one.
Yeah, that was a little embarrassing.
You cut your finger on the shaker rocker, turning the shaker rocker.
Turning it?
Something. When you were over in the corner, you cut your finger and there was blood everywhere over there.
I don't remember that.
You got blood on the. Well, anyway.
Okay, I believe it. I don't remember that.
Those
No,
who saw it remember, believe me.
I've repressed that memory. But yeah, there was one time that, yeah, we had a good laugh. But do you remember any other?
Most of the casualties are moments like the one we just had, where we have a little like disconnect here between the two of us. That couples that watch this show get a kick out of because they have them too.
I have no idea what
Can't
you're talking
imagine.
about. We'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
No, it's always good. All right, Mark asks, oh, this is a compliment. All right, Mark, I'm going to try to answer you. I'm planning, I guess maybe you meant / rebuilding the raised panel style doors and drawers of our oak bathroom vanity to a rail style design using flat panels. The doors and drawers will go from a surface mount to a flush mount style inset in the face frame, okay? I'm planning on making the doors and drawer front rails and styles out of maple, and we're going to paint everything, okay? So I have two questions. What would you recommend to make the drawer sides out of? Okay. We had just an interesting conversation about this, I think at lunch one day with the group here in the course. And I don't know how we got talking about pre-made drawer boxes for cabinets. But when I'm doing a kitchen cabinet or something, it's very convenient to use these wholesale cabinet production makers. And I did a Google search, and if you just look up custom cabinet drawer boxes, production or whatever, you're going to see a list come up. The Amish sell them, and even there's a lot of other companies, and they're really inexpensive. And they'll pre-make it at the exact dimension you want and ship it to you, probably close to where you are, save you a lot of money and time. So that may be a cop-out, but if I would put all my time and energy into the face frames, and you're going to find in many cases that it's more cost productive to get your boxes pre-made like that. It's just not worth it. And they're nicely machine dovetailed and will work really great. And you can spend the time on the front. What would I recommend to use to fill the oak grain on the face frame and side of the vanity so when painted it will look the same as the maple doors and drawers? Many thanks. All right, to fill the grain, we had a recent Shop Night Live on that, did we? Aquacoat. Aquacoat is a cool grain filler. It's water-based, and you just put it on with one of those like Bondo squeegees or whatever. It's super easy. It sands beautifully. It powders out. Might take you a couple coats, but that will save you a lot of grain fill, and it'll look like maple after 2, maybe 3 coats. It goes on super easy, sands flush, and you'll be finished painting and looking like a pro. They got good stuff over there. All right, Daryl says, when you empty your dust collector, what do you do with the dust and clippings that have accumulated? For context, I use mine as bedding for trails that I have created through the woods on my property. It makes for a great walking surface. Barefoot while skipping. No, he didn't say that. Just curious how you discard your dust. Thanks.
Great question.
Someone asked in this class this week if I compressed it and burned it, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if some people have found a way to compress their shavings. Maybe, I know some people like to mix them with paraffin and use them as fire starters or whatever. I don't do that. I just bag them up and tell the neighbors. We have some neighbors with chickens. I used to have a guy with cows and pigs. They used to like to get them, to put them down as bedding. So I give them the good, cleanest bags to my neighbors. And the others I put out, they're still clean, but there might be dust in a mix. I put them in bags in front and I put free wood shaving sign out there. That's what I do. So people just
And they
grab
disappear.
them. Thank God, yeah.
But we do kind of live in a more rural-ish area where there are farms and.
Yeah. All right, so Mike asks, did you happen to get a chance to apply the iron nitrate with heat to a veneered surface? I'm sorry, Mike. Was I supposed to do that? I think I forgot if I was. No, I did not, but I can. Look, I'm going to do this for you. I'm just going to show when I put it on solid wood. For those who didn't see it, we did a little Shop Night Live where you wash just with this iron nitrate. You can buy this stuff online. This came from carolina.com, and you get all kinds of fun chemicals there. Anyway, you wash it on there and it grays out like almost like this here. It looks really kind of grayish green. Then you hit it with a heat gun and it gets this gorgeous, rich, golden amber, like brown amber tone with really nice chatoyance when the oil goes on there. It's what they used a lot on these old rifles, butts, you know, you can think of those old hunting rifles, you know. Anyway, it's a wonderful finish, and I'm sorry, I have not tried it if I was supposed to on veneered surface. I think if we had to talk about that, sometimes veneered surfaces restrict the quality of the result because they're so thin that some of the glue may migrate in and you don't get the full effect of the color change. So that might be part of that. All right, Dennis. Thank you for your nice compliments, Dennis. I really appreciate it. And your comments on the video, of the finishing video. And you're wondering, can we do a future instructional finishing video without any audience participation whatsoever? Because that was a little distracting. I agree with you. It wasn't meant for major consumption when we first recorded it. And just hit the essentials. Can you please? Audience participation always entails numerous interrupting questions. That's like that joke. You ever hear that one about the interrupting cow?
No.
Moo.
Yeah, I have heard it.
Thank
you.
All right. So
Too many times.
audience participation. Okay, I know the video will be difficult to do since it's such a broad topic, but it would be helpful to get a reference video that provides a summary and substance of all types of finishing. For specifics, can you discuss and provide links to numerous finishing SNL videos? How to finish, chemically finish with potassium dichromate or finishing walnut, etc. What are we doing about an index like that?
We do have a video index inside the neighborhood that has a reference points of all of the videos we have done.
Whoa.
By topic and category. So
is that not a great reason
Dennis,
to be in the neighborhood?
I think he is a neighbor.
Check that out on
go there and see
epicwoodworking.com.
those references, look at the finishing category. So that's new in the last 8 months, I think. So check it out.
No, but that is a really great question. We have been talking about doing a finishing video, comprehensive. That's going to be a challenge because there's always new products coming on the line. And guys like Bob Flexner, I would recommend in the meantime, use his book. He was awesome at boiling content down, complicated concepts down so simply. Love that guy. Recently passed away, I guess about a year ago. Mm-hmm. But he was an icon in the teaching and understanding finishes, so did a great job. Check out his books, Understanding Wood Finishing. And we do have plans to do one, so thank you so much for that. All right, Frank says, did you read the book By Hand and by Eye, Lost Art Press? It talks a lot about classical proportions of Greek and Roman architecture, how those proportions relate to the natural world, like trees and human body. When you design a piece, do you use any of these so-called classical properties or proportions, I guess? Why, Frank, yes, I have. It's not called by hand and I is called by Hound and I. I don't know. I love this little book. I actually, it's a fun book for a simple mind like mine, right? Look at it. It's got a lot of diagrams and it's very interesting. It's almost cartoonish the way he laid it out, but very clever. A lot of like, oh, look at that. Symmetry is of us and around us. Look, he talks about that right there. It's pretty cool. Yes, I have gone through this book. I got to get back to it, but it's pretty funny too. Look at, he even sticks a dog in there. That's funny. Okay, so anyway, he has a lot of geometry principles in here, how to lay things out, which I really enjoy. It's kind of puzzle solving in the geometric world, and really great book. But as far as using them in mine, I'm not a big proponent even of the golden mean. I like the golden mean, but I don't like forcing it onto a project. Usually it's what feels right traditionally. Like I'm usually trying to copy or emulate great pieces in history or proportion. So I draw a lot from great historical pieces when I can. So, but I am fascinated by all that proportion stuff. I just don't translate it as much, I guess, directly without, knowing it. All right, so Steve says, does Tom have any drawings of Chippendale dining of a Chippendale dining chair that he can add to the Epic store? Why? I have plans, Steve. Yes, I will. If I had it my way, and some people know this, probably every project I make would be a chair. I love chair making. I love all the variety of chairs, the challenge, the look. I love all kinds of furniture making, right? But the last time I think we suggested making a project, there were some comments from the balcony, not another chair. So we're holding off a little bit on chairs, but there is a Chippendale dining chair in your future if you hang around. I am looking forward to that. I love Chippendale chairs. I just often wondered, is the demand still there because of the decline in interest with 18th century furniture? The brown furniture got a bad name and everything. So if I got a hearty, oh no, I want to see some of that Chippendale furniture, I'll be more moved to do it too. So thank you for that. I love that. We're in the same world there. All right. Stuart says, so I had some prepared maple boards ready for a project stored in my basement. This sounds like, went away for a couple of weeks and had a minor flood. Sorry to hear that, Stuart. The boards now have water staining marks on them. They have dried out, but is all lost, or can I recover them somehow? And will it affect any finish I would apply? Well, if they were maple and they got wet, often they get that blackening or bluing, and I don't know, they probably discolored somewhat, right? I don't know. I would make sure they were good and dried out, plane them off, and do a little test surface like when you've rough planed it, finish it, just sort of sand it like you're ready, and it's dry, and wipe some oil varnish or something on there and see. I'm afraid, I've had that happen too. I had that happen to some beautiful curly maple boards. I forget how they got wet, but it wasn't that bad. And they did wick up because they were on the end grain, the first inch or two, and I ended up having to trim some of it off. So it's test, hit or miss. Good luck with it. Hope it goes well. Mike said, is it possible to get a dark walnut with water-based sanding sealer and or water-based lacquer? I like to move away from solvent, but it gives me the dark color I am looking for. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I don't use water-based sanding sealer and water-based lacquer, so I don't have a lot of experience in that world. Someone can maybe kick in there. Sorry, you got me on that one. But I would think it would be possible. You're trying to get it with the sanding sealer, you're either putting the color on the wood, and there's lots of colors you could use. Oftentimes you want to use a wood color that's the opposite solvent of the top coat, so that that color does not bleed when the top coat hits it. You know what I mean? So if you put a water-based stain and then you finish it with a water-based top coat, sometimes it does funky things to the stain. It starts to lift it and it looks weird. So if you could somehow alcohol stain and then water coat, or even oil stain and then water coat, but you're not wanting to do that. So I don't know. As far as the lacquer base, I'm not sure what I can tell you about that. Hope it goes well there. Steve says, using white oak for outside table supports. Will this wood hold up to outside weather? Why, yes, it will, Steve. White oak is great in outdoor applications. I'm always trying not to overdo it, but we've made a number of outdoor projects, hanging, swings, but what's gotten tested the most are the thresholds, like on the shop. I put all white oak thresholds. Now we have good overhangs on the shop, but they do get a lot of weather and wet, and even the threshold in the front of the house. It's very common to use white oak for thresholds. That should tell you something. They get really weather beaten, sun beaten, and white oak treated well will hold up well. I would also recommend, I did this on my benches outside, epoxying the end grain of the leg where it's going to hit the ground. Just if you can thin some epoxy, I like just sitting the leg in a little cup of epoxy, let it wick in as best it can. Then you have this awesome waterproof sealer. That's where wood really gets it bad, coming up through the end grain. But white oak has a protectant against that as well, so you should be in good shape. All right, Joe says, still struggling on how to protect the compass rose inlay in African mahogany during the initial steps using the potassium dichromate. Amber, no wax shellac. Amber, no wax shellac. Potassium, I'm sorry. Mohawk burnt umber gel stain. Any suggestions will be deeply appreciated. I don't get into that much. Usually I'm trying to use a clear stain if I'm going over a compass rose, a type of inlay like that with other wood. I'm not staining. I try to use a clear varnish, oil varnish if possible. But I've talked to a lot of people about this, seen people dealing with this and what light lines and everything. And what most people end up defaulting to is a very fine artist's brush and some clear shellac. So, you know, shellac lightly brushing over the parts you don't want to absorb. And then I would even tape it off if possible, you know. Get the shellac on there and then tape it off if possible, and then do your thing. Then come back after when you're on your clear coats. So that shellac could be wax-free as well. It's a tough one. I don't know what to tell you. It could be a challenge, but good luck. Bob says, I have been asked to do a 4-session intro to woodworking class with projects for students ranging from 5 to 10 years old. That's pretty young to be dealing with woodworking. For the projects, we will have them make chopsticks using jigs and small hand planes. That's cool. We did that once here in Shop Night Live. That was fun. And assemble a 3-legged milking stool. That's great. But as part of my introduction to wood and where it comes from, I've obtained some white pine cookies. Those are like cross-cuts of a log. They call them cookies, like the big discs, from Wilkins Lumber. I want to have the rings, the growth rings, stand out permanently more than they do now. What should I apply to the cookies to raise the visibility of the new rings, I don't know. I've never tried that with, what'd you say? Pine, right? Yeah, white pine. White pine has a very soft, indistinguishing growth rings and end grain. It's very even. It's hard because you don't have that hard contrast like a lot of the other woods. I'm not sure. If anyone has any suggestions, if you stain it a certain... It absorbs stain fairly evenly on the end grain too. So I'm not sure how you're going to get that to stand out. You know what I would do? Around here, maybe around where you are, there's lots of dead ash trees. And if you could find someone at a mill or something, or maybe that logger, give you a different kind of cookie. No, I don't like these cookies. But you could get like the ash cookies, they really show the growth rings. You need something that's more bold. Pine, you're working against the grain there. Sorry, that happened by accident. All right, so I'm sorry I can't help you with that, but I would get a better visual for that. It's a great idea though. Awesome, props to you for doing that, those young kids. All right, Greg says, is hide glue for beneficial? Is hide glue beneficial for complicated glue ups where extra working time is needed? Yes, it is complicated, Greg. I don't get into it that much.
No, it said for complicated glue ups.
Yeah, is it beneficial for complicated glue ups when extra working time is needed? Oh, well, I'm not sure what kind you're talking about. There's two kinds that people commonly talk about. Genuine hide glue is heated up. It's like a warm liquid, and as it cools, it binds. And if it's that kind of hide glue, that's really challenging to work with, very tough. But if it's liquid hide glue, that gives you lots of working time, and that could be beneficial when you're working on a complicated glue up and more working time is needed. So, depends. But I would say that would be my answer for that. Sorry, I can't help you. You can always heat it up if it's veneer or something like that, but I don't know. I don't get into it as much because of the complexity, and a lot of times in here, it's cold in the shop, especially half the year, right? Cool anyway, in the low 60s. Tough. It's tough to deal with hide glue. All right. Lon asks, would be very interested to know how you make your thin French cleat for your hanging wall cabinets. Thanks for asking that, Lon. Well, look at this. I have a hanging wall cabinet right over here. I actually just brought it up for this question. But this is a little bow front hanging cabinet that we did some time ago. And the best way to answer that question, Lon, was to actually show it to you. I had this downstairs. And look, we've got a cleat right on the wall here. And it looks like I laminated 2 pieces of 1/8 inch plywood. But if you had a good, this is only about a 1/4 inch thick plywood. I'm gonna measure it right now. I think I laminated it with some white oak as well. So yeah, it's a 32nd over a 1/4 inch. So that would be 9/32 for those of you keeping score. That goes on. There's an angle cut. This is what a French cleat is. You have this inward angle cut and this piece is screwed to the wall. You want to get it into studs or something like that. You can be, I'm not sure what the exact precise angle is, but I just use 40 degrees most of the time. You could go 45, doesn't matter. You start getting a really sharp point though. But that is really secured to the wall like that. And then on the back of the cabinet, if you check this out, we have a recess or a void in the back here that's a little thicker than that, or about the same thickness as that cleat. And then we have the opposing cleat right here that's got the inverted angle cut on this going the other way, so that when this drops down on that cleat, the angle of that like wedges and it pulls the cabinet against the wall. And the way it's vertically attached, it has tremendous like vertical strength and resistance. This cleat here, I actually glue to the back of the cabinet in this case, which is glued in to this panel. So when it goes on, you just set it, you find the opening, drop it down, and it just catches on that ledge, and it's just so solid. It's the most elegant way to carry heavy weight. My tool cabinet with all that weight in it, made out of oak, is just sitting on a French cleat. So very similar. It's a great way of hanging things like that. So that's a great question.
I think he was curious also how you make them, how you...
Oh, how I make the thin French cleats? I was looking at that one. I would just use like a Baltic birch plywood would be plenty. It looks like I laminated 2 pieces of 1/8-inch plywood, and then I even put some veneer, which, you know, any lamination like that is getting thick. And so, I mean, getting more strength. So you're getting the benefit of the stableness and the strength of a ply laminate. So that's how I would do it. You can just glue it between 2 cauls or put it in a vacuum press if you got
If you
that.
actually want to see how that is made, we have those courses, those 2. I don't know if you'd want to buy the course just to hear how to make that actually.
I'm not sure if I think I probably did talk
Yes,
about making
yeah, you
that.
should.
Yeah. Okay. And the last question is from Mike. And he says, I'd be curious on how, after living with it for about 2 years, you feel about your workbench. I feel great, Mike. Would you still use soft maple? Do you like the Hovarder vices? How have some of the other design decisions working out? In parentheses, he says, I built the workbench and there are some things I love and other things not so much. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Mike. Yeah, it was a hard choice. Like all these, you know, you're going to live with them. So you're like, oh, do I want to make it out of maple? Do I make it out of soft maple? And I had a really hard bench. I had an oak bench, more open grain. I elected to make this one out of soft maple. It was a little less weight working with it, and a little less money. It's a lot more affordable. So I wasn't trying to break the bank when I was showing how to build this in the course. But in the course, I gave the option and choice for anyone. You can make it out of whatever you want. If you want that hard, super hard surface or whatever. I've heard people recommend, it doesn't matter. Use poplar, use whatever. But softness is a factor. And I have to tell you, after having the oak bench, it is a little bummer to see a little dent go in your bench, right? But that's part of the new thing. And I've even swelled out a little dent if I put it in. But other than that, you know, I like the warmth of it. It doesn't have that hard ringing hardness like, you know, what hard maple could. But I wouldn't complain if it was hard maple either. If I had it to do again, would I? I'd flip a coin, honestly. It doesn't really matter that much to me to have the dents. No matter what it is, it's going to get worn. As far as the Hovarder vices go, I like them a lot. I love them, actually. I'm getting used to them. You got to just get used to, you know, you just reverse it, and you can so quickly, the action is amazing on the vices. And I played around with different handles. That's the only thing I haven't settled on. Like, I've not been totally thrilled with any of the handles because I'm more of a traditional guy. This is the cool, it's like a speed handle. It was on, look at that. It looks almost like a stick shift in an old Mustang, huh? But you got these 3 handles. I do kind of like that, but it's cold steel and edgy, and I'm a sensitive guy. No, I'm not used to the hard edge down there. The old traditional handles, like on my other bench, I just like the leverage you would get with that and the warmth of it. So I'm gonna actually make a handle out of some apple wood we got from a little orchard, and that's my only complaint about it, is that I'm not a big fan of any of the handles. I had the wheel on there, the 8-inch wheel, which I thought would be cool. It looks cool like this, but the angle of using it was awkward on your wrist, and the same is true on the tail vise. Maybe you've experienced that. The little wheel, not into that either. I'm gonna make a little handle, like with a traditional knob. So other than that, I love it all. It's very much like my other one. I love the dog, the dead man, all of the dogs, and the sliding wagon vise. I would do it again. And if you want to make a bench like this, you can go to epicwoodworking.com. It's another shameless plug. No, but that's all I got to say on that.
good.
But thanks, Mike. I hope you're not too disappointed. I'd be curious about the things you don't like so much. If maybe we have something in
Yeah,
common
let
there.
us know so we can.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It's always fun to hear from you questions, and you're always challenging me, and we just enjoy the interaction. It's nice to know you enjoy being here too. So thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit in the shop here. Look forward, on behalf of the camera lady and myself, we look forward to seeing you next time right back here on Shop Night Live. Good night, everybody.
Thanks so much, everyone. See you soon.